just click on this create pipeline button, I'm redirected to this directory, which has about 150 plus native connectors segregated across different verticals based again on the nature of their usage. So you have database and file systems where we have all the OLTPs like Postgre, MySQL, SQL Server, Oracle, and even NoSQL databases like Mongo, DynamoDB. File systems also exist in form of Google Sheets. We have S3, we have Drive, right? So you can choose to have select any of these sources. Similarly, engineering and analytics based sources where we have SDKs, REST based applications to be pulled in, finance and accounting based sources where we have Stripe, Braintree payments, so on and so forth. Marketing where all the ad based sources exist, product analytics. So as you go along, search for your relevant source within the directory. You can just go on, select that particular source and, create your pipeline further. So I'll select my source, which is going to be MySQL. I'll use my RDS hyperscaler and I'll choose my Snowflake destination. Now, as I select my source and destination, I'm being asked by Hevo again, hey, what is your pipeline mode? Pipeline mode, again, is the nature of how we ingest our data. With any database source, our recommended method is using the transactional log. So in case of MySQL, it will be bin log. We capture all inserts, updates, and deletes. Now, in case you do not want to expose logs, there are two more methods, which is table and custom SQL, wherein you can point out to the specific table that you want to capture data, or maybe route a specific query through which you want to capture your data, right? So depending on your feasibility, you can select a particular mode. I'll go with binlog. And as I select my source and my pipeline mode, I'm redirected to this source configuration page. You'll see towards the right hand side of this page all the necessary prerequisites, the step-by-step approach of how you can actually set up your source fully for it to give you the right data. All the necessary prerequisites are mentioned over here, and this is very empowering. So if you have the right resources, even a non-tech user can go on and connect his source and build his or her pipeline. So always very useful, and it's not just for MySQL. For any source in Hevo, you'll have this starter guide available to you. I'll just name my source over here, copy my host name, give my username and password. Again, very simple steps of how you actually access your source. And I'll just give my database name over here. There are also, options in terms of how you can additionally set up your source. Let's say in case you need advanced settings like SSH-based connectivity to route through a tunnel, right? And not expose your data to public network. You can do that. In case you want an additional encryption layer over your data movement, you can use SSL. By default, whenever we are moving data between source and destination, it is fully encrypted. And also on top of it, in case you have a deeper, connectivity requirements like a VPC pairing or a VPN connection or a private link, all of these options are also available within Hevo. Now our source configuration is done. Let's just validate our inputs and on we go to configure our destination further. Let's just give it a second. Okay, done. Like I mentioned, I'll be using Snowflake for my data loading in this case. So I have a bunch of destinations available. I'll just choose this one. What it does is it is giving me a view of, okay, what was this destination that you had set up? Just validate, okay, this is the warehouse, the database name, the username and password. In case you feel that you have chosen the wrong destination, you can go back to this destination step and just validate what was the right destination that you had created and go back one step and choose that destination. So a quick validation check. And again, when you're setting up your destination, like the source configuration, you have the destination configuration available as well in terms of how you can, make your destination in Hevo, right? Again, testing it further and comes the important part of the pipeline creation, which is the pipeline configuration itself. So again, let's give it a second for us to march further. Great. Now we are at the pipeline configuration page. Let me just rename my pipeline. Let's make it demo pipe. And now it is asking me for a prefix. Prefix essentially is important to differentiate all the tables, all the objects that are being moved, and you can actually specify a particular prefix name, and all within that prefix, all your objects will be, differentiated, will be applicable in the destination. So for easily locating your objects and easier segregation of your objects from multiple pipelines, even if your destination is same, it is very important to have a prefix. So I'll just give a prefix like maybe demo. Yeah. Now, there are a few parameters within the pipeline configuration itself. Selecting your load mode. Now, there are two options over here. Merge. Merge is your classic SCD type operation where, in case there are records uh, that exist, if there are new information found, it is an update. If there's no match which exists, it is an insert. So very, very common, very popular method of, incremental replication. That's where you'll see the recommended load mode. But let's say in case you have, a requirement of auditability where you want to maintain a complete, list of all the new records which are being added in the data set without any kind of a modification or deletion of existing data, there's also append option. There are also nuances within these load mode that we can talk about in the further step. Next comes the failure handling policy. Again, talking about observability and how we are giving you that particular option, to make sure how you want to govern the pipeline run in case of any failure, right? So you can have this object level setting that, hey, load data with less than 10K fail events. So if there are 10K records or less than 10K records which have failed, only then load the data. Or you can have a stricter governance in that sense. You do not load any data if there's any failure within even one record, right? Moving further, we do plan to customize this for the user so that they can make their own kind of a failure handling policy depending on their use case, of course. Again, comes a very important feature of the schema evaluation policy. Three aspects to it: allow all changes. That means whatever is being detected at the source level, in terms of schema changes, table level changes, column level changes, should be applicable in the destination on the fly. And we, in our previous pipeline also, we have a similar policy, not similar, but the same policy uh, for our stress testing also. Now, in case you want a one-time run, you do not want blockages further in terms of any addition within your source schema, you can block those changes as well. Or in case you only want new columns in the existing tables to be synced in the destination, not the schema and the table itself, you can allow column level changes. So again, purely on how you are replicating your data, how eventually you want your destination schema to look like, you can choose the right schema policy. Again, coming to the replication type of data, very, very classic modern data stack methodology of having two workloads running simultaneously. So you can have your existing data, which is the historical data, and your ongoing incremental data replicated together with the first method, which is historical and incremental. In case you only want the incremental changes to be loading at the destination level, you choose the second option. The most popular being the first one, and that's what I'll also show you in the running pipeline. Now comes the sync frequency, and here's a new thing, and I do want to point it out. Uh, One is again the scheduled run of your pipeline, in which what you do is you define a particular sync frequency and you adhere to that, right? Second option over here, what you're seeing is sync on demand. Now, in case you want a particular trigger to be running only based on a specific requirement, right? Maybe there's a urgent ad hoc report in which for which you just want this pipeline to be running only at that time interval. Uh, in that case, you can use the sync on demand feature. Basically, this allows you to trigger the Hevo pipeline using or external orchestration like Airflow. So you can have all the necessary details added to that API and just trigger the DAG to run this pipeline. So that's a new feature which has come, and definitely we'll be talking more about this feature in the upcoming webinars. But just a quick glimpse into uh, not just the scheduled run, but also the on-demand run, which is there in Hevo now. Again, we talked about schedule run, and this is going to be a schedule run, but normally we do like every 30 minutes or hourly syncs. But you can see now with the advancement in our connectors and how our product is progressing, we are focusing also more on how fast we can achieve the sync time, and increase our users focus on the analytics further. So you can see there's also every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and 15 minutes sync available for our enterprise database specific connectors. So you can choose to now every 5 minutes also your data between source and destination. I'll be using every 5 minutes for now. Again, lastly, there's pipeline latency. Latency purely means the difference between your data ingesting from the source and loading in the destination. This is also an important SLA, especially in mission critical projects where governance becomes really important for the entire delivery. So you can have your alerts specified for the latency SLA if not met. So for example, if I just put 3 over here, if my pipeline latency crosses 3 minutes, I'll be notified and I can have necessary actions created on the pipeline. Maybe I can change my sync time on the go. All of these steps can be taken once I'm getting these alerts. I'll just turn this toggle off. So yeah, this was all about how you can configure your pipeline. A lot of customizations available so that a lot of time is saved when you're creating your pipeline. Continuing further, we have the penultimate step, which is configuring the objects. I'll select all my objects which I want to load. Now, a very important point about load mode, like I mentioned, there are nuances within it. For example, there are probably out of 10 objects, there are 2 objects in which you probably want the auditability, you want to maintain the list of all the records. So you can actually go at the object level and change the load mode from merge to append, right? This option is fairly important. Maybe there may be edge cases that you want to change the load mode for depending again on use case. So that is also possible, and you can all see what are the fields available in case you don't want a particular field to be moving forward with. You can also disable the field setting from this. You can always see what was the primary key, and you can change, like I mentioned, field configuration using this option. Final step is just reviewing all the details that we just did, right from source to destination to pipeline and object, and we'll just save the pipeline. Now this pipeline will initialize and start the historical load. This was all about how we simply can create a pipeline, glimpse into new features, how a pipeline is self-recovered from schema drift changes.